Chali, Namaskar everybody, good afternoon all. I welcome you all on the behalf of StudyIQ. My name is Pritesh Maturkar. I am the Senior Faculty of Geography, Environment and Ecology in StudyIQ. And side by side, ladies and gentlemen, I am also your official tour guide because the person whom you are seeing on your screen right now, I have been to 49 countries and I've traveled across 4 continents of the world per se. So for me, geography is not only my profession but my passion. So today marks a pivotal shift in our journey titled the Geography Through Maps version 2.0, where I am targeting three very important pillars. Number one, we are understanding the concepts, we are understanding the locational analysis with whatever entries we are going to discuss. Number second, we will be targeting heavy number of current affairs when we are doing any locational analysis. And number third, in this series, whatever maps, whatever extra data I'll be showcasing you all, that will be readily available on my Telegram handle CSC with PM, just as it is after the lecture. So this is going to be a one-stop destination for each and every one of you to understand maps, to utilize the maps and make sure that you get good marks basically in prelims and mains. Yes, good afternoon Kanwar ma'am. Rest of you, those are watching me live, please feel free to comment because this is a live lecture. So today I am starting off with rather a very beautiful continent called as South America. So when I'm talking about South America is in very much news today. Why? Because COP30, Conference of Parties number 30. So it has come full circle. 1992 was the Earth Summit, happened in Rio de Janeiro, where you had the beginning of UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Now, after so many years, after so many decades, finally the negotiations have come to the place where they all started. And of course, the selvas of the world, the Amazon rainforest, because they are basically one of the richest biodiverse regions in the world and they supply more than 17 to 18% of the oxygen. Right now, they are under threat. So South America right now is in very much what I can say targeted kind of continent. It is very much in news out there. So first of all, today we'll understand all the physical entries, we'll understand the water bodies, the mountains, the passes, the gaps, the physiographic divisions. Then in the next lecture, I will zone on the political entries, I will zone in on the rivers, the minerals, and whatever resources are at stake right now in Amazon. So let us begin up with the discussion of South America. So guys, if I'm talking about South America, now after Oceania, this continent is the first continent through which basically equator passes, and this is the continent also through which basically Tropic of Capricorn passes. So two very important latitudes they pass through South America. If I'm drawing the exact like scale to scale analysis of it, so this is how they basically pass through. This is 0 degree equator and this is 23.5 degrees south. So when I'm talking about South America, so in South America now, you will be finding the gradation of climate. You'll be finding the gradation of vegetation out there. Gradation of climate and gradation of vegetation, meaning that as we tend to move from equator towards the south, the vegetation will change. So here we'll be having the equatorial type of climate. You all know that equatorial climate is unchanging type of climate. There is basically very less diurnal variations of temperature. There will be no seasons and the weather conditions will be same throughout the year out there. Then as we migrate down, so this will now start turning into what? This will now start turning into basically grasslands. So in South America, you have rather very extensive grasslands out there. So the grasslands exists because of two parts. Number one, because on the west side, we are having the world's longest mountain range on land called as the Andes, which extend as Cordilleras in the north. So they act as orographic barriers to the incoming westerlies. Plus, on the east side, you have the Brazilian highlands, which will basically stop the winds coming from the east side. So the leewardness has a very important role to play over here. And number two, of course, as we start grading towards the south, but naturally, as we move into the subtropical regions, the weather starts becoming more and more dry. So this is where we'll be finding grasslands, sort of savanna type of topography. And then on the west coast, if you come in South America, so this over here, this is the world's only hyper arid place. Hyper arid in the sense some parts of this place, they have not received rainfall for more than 100 plus years. Here not only we don't have any flora and fauna, but here microorganisms also don't exist. So this is basically the region of the driest place on earth called as the Atacama. After that, if I'm moving further south, so this particular area is where we start getting grasslands, but this is where we have temperate grasslands. So temperate grasslands in what way? So we are having one of the most fertile grassland of the world called as Pampas. So on the tropical west, we are having desert. On the eastern side, due to the orography of mountains, we have grasslands. Below, we have temperate grasslands. And now, this region becomes really very dry. Some parts of it only receive good rainfall. Rest, all of this region becomes completely dry. So this is similar to that we have in India, the Leh and Ladakh. So this over here, it is basically a cold desert. So cold desert meaning here the winters will be unusually dry, summers will bring little bit of rainfall, but not such a heavy rainfall that you will be having temperate evergreen vegetation. So the name of the desert over here, it is referred to as Patagonia. So starting from the north till the south, you will find proper gradation in climate, proper gradation in vegetation, and of course, the flora and fauna will mimic, basically the topography will mimic the latitude and of course the altitude too. And if I'm going in the north towards the Caribbean, towards the basically Gulf of Mexico side, so the South America over here is little bit more resourceful because here you have good mineral oil reserves. Why? Because this is where we have one of the world's most well-developed lagoon. It is called as Lake Maracaibo. So starting from the north till the south, you have rich amount of resources, you have rich amounts of flora and fauna. So now let us start from the very basics and let us try to understand the important water bodies that we have surrounding South America. So if I'm targeting South America, three water bodies are rather very important. Means these three entries you need to know very profoundly. And why so? Because they are also in the news. So number first is this one. Then number second water body is basically this, an inland lagoon. And number third water body right now is this one. And number fourth you can remember over here. So this 1, 2, 3, 4 water bodies, they are very, very important. I'm writing their names first and then we'll see through atlas. So this is the world's most difficult passage to circumnavigate. This is referred to as the Drake's Passage. Then number 2, this is referred to as Lake Maracaibo. Then over here, this is basically the mouths of Amazon, and here you are having a river called as Tocumentes. So this is where right now we are having the COP30 going on, the mouths of Amazon, and then this is referred to as Rio de la Plata. We call this as what? We call this as Rio de la Plata. So these four entries are really very, very important. Let us now first understand it through the Atlas of South America and then start off with the further discussion. So if I'm talking about the important water bodies, the first one out there on the west side, we have the mighty Pacific Ocean out there. Then if I move towards the coast side, little bit towards the coastal side, so this is where we have one of the world's longest trench system. So this is referred to as the Peru-Chile Trench. So when I'm talking about Peru-Chile Trench, why is this existing? Yes, good afternoon Sonuji, good afternoon Mukeshji, nice to meet you all. So when I'm talking about the Peru-Chile Trench system, this is arguably one of the world's longest trench system. This is happening why? Because on the west coast, we have the subduction of which plate? We have the subduction of the Nazca plate happening beneath the South American plate. So the Nazca plate is basically subducting underneath the South American plate, resulting into one of the world's longest trench systems called as the Peru-Chile trench system. So when I'm talking about this trench system, you can clearly see that as soon as you step out of Andes and you go over here, the depth over here is close to 8,000 meters, 8,000 to 6,000 meters, very deep. And that is why this region is also a part of what? This region is also a part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. So starting from New Zealand, then into Eastern Asia, then into basically the northern part of the Pacific region, the Alaskan coast, the Siberian coast, going up to the west coast of North America, then coming over here till South America. This is our Great Pacific Ring of Fire. We also abbreviate it as the Circum-Pacific Belt of earthquakes and volcanism out there. So when I'm talking about the Peru-Chile Trench, so over here you have to remember two very important things. The first important thing is that on this coast, the continental shelf is not existing. Continental shelf means the extension of the continental margins underneath the oceanic waters. So that is why countries like Chile, Argentina, they are always at the forefront of demanding extra provision under UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. They demand that more area should be included in their EEZ, Exclusive Economic Zone. And number two, over here you have the world's fastest cold current coming in. This is referred to as the Humboldt current. The Humboldt current really brings in good nutrients out there. So fishing is well developed. But right now, because of climate change, because of adverse impacts of El Nino and La Nina, this region is now suffering from increase in temperature. The intensity of the Humboldt current is decreasing, and that is why these regions today, they are undergoing basically lots and lots of undergoing of economic turmoil out there. So these regions, they often suffer from acute mismatch of demand and supply. So when the fisheries dwindle, of course the prices go up, and if the fisheries are coming in a mass, means if the demand is more, then basically if the supply is still constant, then the prices start falling. So neither the adverse on both spectrum is basically warranted for this region. Then if I move towards the northern side of the South America over here, so this is where you are having a very important region which is very much in news right now, the Gulf of Panama. Why Gulf of Panama is in very much news? Because if you go over here, you have one of the world's most important man-made canal called as the Panama Canal. I know all of you know that, but now this region is in news. Why? Because over here, the gap which exists in order to cross into the Central and North America, this is called as the Darien Gap. So if I showcase you what is Darien Gap, it is in news because of what? It is in news because of the donkey. So Darien Gap or the Darien Passage. So if I just showcase you, the Darien Gap is a remote roadless region of rainforest at the border of Panama and Colombia that acts as a natural barrier between North and South America. So this over here, if I just showcase you what is the actual map of Darien Gap, this is the actual map of Darien Gap, and no British settler also was able to capture this. British settlers did, the settlers from basically Dutch, they tried to capture this, but this is where you are having peak equatorial weather coming into play. You are having Pacific Ocean on the west, you are having the Caribbean Sea and the mighty Atlantic on the east. So what happens is heavy rainfall, heavy mud flow, heavy basically what I can say landslides happening, and this is where you have some of the world's most deadliest animals also residing. So the Darien Gap today is in very much in news because of illegal human trafficking route called as the donkey. You all know. So the people, they will start from Venezuela, they will start from Brazil, they will come to Colombia and they will try to cross this. It's very treacherous. It takes roughly 15 to 20 days to cross this, but the success rate is very less. Many people have died crossing this. So this is between the border of Colombia, and above you have the country of Panama. So please remember the Gulf of Panama, the Darien Passage. You should know with which countries, in which countries it is located. After this, if I move and if I discuss basically the next important water body over here, so this is water body number 2. Over here, you can clearly see Lake Maracaibo. So Lake Maracaibo is basically an inland lagoon. This is what? This is basically an inland lagoon out there. So when I'm talking about this lagoon meaning what? That the seawater has little bit inundated the coastline out there. So in the past, Africa and South America were all joined together. You all know that they have splitted the continental drift theory. So when the split happened, so this area witnessed intense tectonic activity. You were having seawater incursion, the seawater inundating the coastline and going back. So because of this, the marine life submerged, the forest submerged, and over here you today have very good mineral oil reserves. And this is the region which is very much in news with respect to what? With respect to the governments of USA and Venezuela. So USA fears that if Venezuela is able to augment the oil production, then it will topple up the basically mainstay of OPEC, and then their prices will start falling. So please remember this entry. This is called as Lake Maracaibo. After this, if I'm coming towards the eastern side, so towards the eastern side, this is where you have mouths of Amazon, and you have a river over here called as Tocomantes. So this is where right now we are having COP30, the city called as Belém. If I'm showcasing you the political map of South America, so just opening up so that you can all get a bird's eye view. Don't worry, we'll be discussing each of this entry tomorrow. Today I'm just introducing you to the physiographic divisions, and then we'll move up ahead. So see, this is basically where you have the mouths of Amazon. You have a city called as Macapa, and this is where you have the river Tocomantes draining into the Atlantic, and this is where you have a city of Belém. So this can be asked in prelims, where the COP30 happened, on which river is Mouth's river is the Belém city located, so it's Tocomantes, and on the other end you are having Amazon. So please don't end up getting confused. So this is entry number 3, which you have to remember. After that, the easternmost tip of South America. So the easternmost tip of South America, it is referred to as Cape of Saurok. Cape of Saurok meaning the Cape of Sun God. Sun, rock means rock. And this is where you have Plateau of Borborema, one of the world's richest mineral regions out there for metallic and non-metallic minerals. After this, if I take you to the eastern side over here to the south, so the entry which was asked this year, Lake Platos, again an inland lagoon, and Lake Mirim. So both of them are basically inland lagoons out there. And then to the south, we are having Rio de la Plata. So Rio de la Plata, the confluence of two very important rivers. You have river Parana, and then you have river Uruguay. So river Parana and river Uruguay, they drain into Rio de la Plata. So this year, the question which was asked in prelims was that, does Tropic of Cancer pass through Lake Platos? The answer is no. So please remember that Tropic of Capricorn, my bad. So the Tropic of Capricorn, it does pass through Atacama. After crossing Atacama, it passes a grassland called as Gran Chaco. After that, it cuts Paraguay River, which eventually meets up with Parana, and then it crosses the Brazilian highlands into the Atlantic. So the question which was asked, does Tropic of Capricorn cut across Lake Patos? The answer is no. After that, if I go into the southern side, so in the southern side over here, you are having the island of Tierra del Fuego, land of eternal fire. Lots and lots of what I can say volcanic activity happening over here. So Tierra del Fuego is an island where you have two countries ruling it. We have Chile and Argentina. So here two entries are very, very important. Number one, we have something called as Magellan Strait. So the Magellan Strait, and then another entry we have Cockburn Canal. So Magellan Strait will separate the continental landmass of South America from basically the island of Tierra del Fuego. And then if you go down south over here, this is where you have the Drake's Passage. So the Drake's Passage, the world's most difficult passage to basically circumnavigate. Why? Because if you see which latitude we are in, so the latitudes are to the south of 60 degree. So this is where you are having intense westerlies coming, and because of this westerlies, what happens is over here, because of the dominance of the open seas, the westerlies, they tend to pick up extra speed. So the westerlies of the southern hemisphere, guys, they become very, very powerful. They are known as roaring 40s, furious 50s, shrieking 60s, and screaming 70s. So Drake's Passage comes under shrieking 60s and screaming 70s. The wave height can reach up to 20 meters too. So this is very, 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 very important. Now, as we have done with the water bodies around South America, now let us first zone in on the physiographic divisions. Like, what are the main physiographic divisions of South America? If I'm just trying to interpolate for you what can be the physiographic divisions if we really want to understand the weather and climate of South America. So South America is basically divided into 4 physiographic divisions. We have the Western Pacific coastal strip. So starting from the north, from Colombia till the southernmost tip of Tierra del Fuego. So this is the Pacific coastal strip out there. In some places, it is close to 80 kilometers wide. It's flat plain. After that, the second division we have, it is basically the Western Highlands or the Western Mountains and Highlands. So highlands meaning what? Highlands meaning you are having plateaus. So the Western Mountains and Highlands. The world's longest mountain range on land, the mighty Andes, they are located on the west coast. Why? Because you are having subduction of the Nazca plate underneath the South American plate. So as the Nazca plate, it basically subducts underneath the South American plate. Whatever accretionary prism is basically accumulating over here. Accretionary prism in the sense, so when one oceanic plate subducts underneath the continental plate, you all must be knowing, or those of you don't know, just giving you some extra knowledge. In the world, we are having 2 types of crust. We have continental crust and we have the oceanic crust. When I'm talking about the continental crust is light, it is buoyant, it will resist subduction. Whereas on the other hand, the oceanic crust is denser, it is thicker, it subducts. So what happens is when we are having the OC type of boundary, the oceanic floor, it will start to subduct. So when this is subducting, the sediments of the subducting oceanic slab plus the sediments of the South American continental crust, they all get chirped, they all get chipped, and they basically rise as what? They basically rise as long linear chain, or instead of calling it as linear chain, we can say that there are systems of the sediments getting uplifted as fold mountains. So we basically have what? We basically have upliftment on the Andean type of mountains. Andes, the dominant rock being andesite. And why I'm talking about highlands? Because this particular area, it has numerous intermountain plateaus, like the plateau of Ecuador. Then we have the Bolivian plateau. So these are the plateaus which are sandwiched between 2 parallel ranges of fold mountain. So this is division number 2. Then division number 3, we have this complete region out there. This is referred to as the central lowlands. We call it as what? We call it as the central lowlands, where basically we have the mighty Amazon river draining. And then we have the grassland topography of the entire South America. And to the north, like included in division number 2 only. So in the north, included in division number 2 itself, we basically have the extension over here. This is referred to as the Guiana Highland. So this is extension of division number 2 only. Number 3rd is this division, the central lowlands having the mighty Amazon and the grasslands in the north, sorry, grasslands in the south. So this region in totality will be very important region for basically animal ranching. So right now in South America, you are having the equatorial rainforests cleared, the local biodiversity is completely eradicated, the forests are burned, because you all know that when I'm talking about Amazon, it's a rainforest. So the soils will suffer from intense mineralization. When it is suffering from intense mineralization, all the important minerals will be washed out under heavy rainfall. So in order to increase the fertility of the soils, the forests are slashed, the forests are burned, so that nitrogen fixation happens, the soil's fertility improves, and then over here you are having the growth of one particular grass called as alfalfa grass, which helps to fatten the cattle very quickly. So this is what is happening in these areas today. And then lastly, number 4th division out there, this is referred to as the Eastern Highlands and Mountains. The Eastern Mountains and Highland. So when I'm talking about this Eastern Mountains and Highlands, they have uplifted along with what? They have uplifted alongside the west coast of South America, because, sorry, the west coast of Africa, because once the South America and Africa, they were both joined together. So now let us try to understand the physiographic divisions through atlas. Then in next lecture, we'll try to understand the important rivers, the passes, the mountains, and we'll also understand the political entries behind it. So now I'm going full screen. Everybody please focus on this very carefully. Those of you are watching me live right now, please feel free to tell me, are you all able to see this map properly? Are you able to see this map in good resolution? Because I've gone full screen. So for me, the image is a little bit blurred. I want your opinion. Are you all able to see this clearly? Are you all able to see this clearly? Yeah, chalo, thank you. So now the first region, the Western Pacific coastal strip. So it will start from Gulf of Panama. You can see this coastal strip going. So when this coastal strip, it enters into Chile, when it enters into Peru, so this is where you have beginning of the world's driest desert called as Atacama. And then if you go down, it is extending till where? It is extending till basically the border of Chile and Argentina. So when I'm talking about this border of Chile and Argentina, you are having lots and lots of small volcanic islands and continental islands. When I'm talking about this Pacific coastal strip, some of it is dry if you are in the tropics, some of it is wet if you are in the western side of the Andes, because the westerlies will come. So it is having mix of vegetation. In the north, it is having little bit of grassland topography. Then in the middle, it's completely dry. So starting from the coast till the Andes, let's say for around 80 kilometers, you have basically absolute no trees. You have flat topography. And then in the south, here you can have good forest. Here you can have bushes too. Then the next division out there is basically the mighty Andes, the world's longest fold mountain system on land. So the Andes, they will start from where? Andes, they will start from Venezuela. So in Venezuela, you have the Cordilleras, and in basically Colombia, Ecuador, they start extending as the proper Andes. So in the north, you have Corde de Merida. Then if you go into the western side in Colombia, so in Colombia you have western Cordilleras, central Cordilleras, and eastern Cordilleras. Very important mountain ranges. So these are Andes only. The naming of it, even though is Cordilleras, they are considered Andes only, hence Andes is also written. And then as soon as you enter into Ecuador, so from here in reality, the elevation starts to increase. So now see over here, you are having two very important peaks. You have Cotopaxi and Chimborazo. So does equator cut through Cotopaxi and Chimborazo? The answer is no. But both of these peaks are within 2 to 3 degrees of equator. So on equator, it can come in prelims. Which of the following are important volcanic peaks? You should say Cotopaxi and you should say Chimborazo. Very, very important. After that, if you go in the southern side, so you don't need to remember every volcanic mountain. Whatever I'm just giving you the names, please remember it. So if you go into Bolivia, now in Bolivia, you are having one of the world's biggest intermountain plateau. It is called as the Bolivian Plateau. In the Bolivian Plateau region, you find the world's highest freshwater lake, Lake Titicaca. So I'm writing over here that this is the world's highest freshwater lake. This is referred to as the highest freshwater lake, and this is completely navigable by boat, guys. You can take a boat and you can navigate till here, Lake Titicaca. So below Lake Titicaca, you are having Mount Ilampu, then you have Mount Shazama. After that, if you go into the Andes, so starting from the coastal strip up to a little bit of its elevation, we have the Atacama Desert, the world's driest place, the world's only hyper-arid place. Nothing survives. So if I'm taking you to Atacama, the birds which occasionally fly over here, the flamingos, they have developed a distinct orange and pink color because of the pigmentation. Here, the subtropical high pressure belt exists, so because of this there is absence of clouds. The sunlight is very much intense, it's very much rich in UV light out there. So the animals out there, they have developed distinct skin tones, they have developed distinct skin pigments, so as to prevent them from the ionizing, or so as to prevent them from skin cancers associated with the UV spectrum, UAB and UAV and UAB. So the spectrums of the ultraviolet light, which are very, very harmful. So it is protected because of the skin pigmentation which you find over here. After that, if you go to the south of basically Atacama, so this is where you find the world's tallest volcano. So we are talking about the world's tallest volcano. It's a stratovolcano, layers and layers of lava accumulation. The name of it is Ojos del Salado. Very, very important in Argentina and the border of Chile, even though it's located in Argentina completely. After that, if you go down south, so this is where you will be finding the world's tallest peak outside the Himalayan belt. So the pass connecting Chile and Argentina over here, just to the south of this peak, it is called as Uspallata Pass. The world's tallest peak outside the Himalayas. Outside the Himalayas, in the southern, in whichever hemisphere you consider, it is Aconcagua. See the elevation of it, almost 7 kilometers in height. After that, you are having Mount Tupingalo. So both of these mountains, they are not volcanic. They are basically fold mountains out there. That is why the elevation is so goddamn high out there. And then if I'm moving down a little bit towards south over here, so you have one very important mountain over here. It is called as San Valentin. So San Valentin, even though it's not considered purely volcanic, but the bedrock of it is completely volcanic. So this mountain has features similar to the Trans-Himalayas that we have in India. So the topography of this region, it mixes and matches up with what? It mixes and matches up with the Trans-Himalayan region. So that is why the geologists or the geographers who basically flock to this region, they often also study the Himalayan rocks because of similar characteristics of features which we find over here and the Trans-Himalayas of India. So this is very, very important. So this is basically division number 2, the Western mountains and highlands. Now, if I'm talking about the highlands and mountains over there, so in the north, you also have to remember one very important division. So this is referred to as the Guiana Highland. So Guiana Islands will share its orogeny. It will share its mountain building with what? It will share its mountain building with basically the Gulf of Guinea coast of Africa. So the Gulf of Guinea coast of Africa, and especially the northern mountains of the West Africa up till the Atlas Mountains. So similar orogeny will be having, because this is where once Africa was joined along this coast. So Guiana Highlands, and this is where we find the world's tallest waterfall. It is referred to as the Angel Falls. So this will be the world's tallest waterfall out there, called as the Angel Fall. Now, for discussing division number 3 and division number 4, I will be taking up a leeway in the sense that herein I will be cramping up the current affairs, and plus I'll be including the political atlas too. So I'll be stopping for the discussion of South America over here today. Tomorrow, or let's say on Monday, I'll be zoning in on division number 3 and division number 4, but we'll be bringing in current affairs, we'll bringing in the resources, we'll bringing in the discussions of basically the tribes also of this region. So now, please revise. I suggest you please revise OC type of boundary. You please revise the types of volcanoes out there and understand the difference between equatorial, tropical and temperate. Yes, and one more entry, like this is very, very outstanding feature in the world, Lanos. So you must have heard grasslands, right? But have you ever equated grasslands with equatorial latitudes? The answer is no. But this is a very peculiar topography. Why? Because this is basically a sort of highland between Guyana and the Andes out there. So if I showcase you the photo of Llanos, so see, if I'm showcasing you the photo of Llanos, Llanos is a sort of equatorial grassland. On the equator, because of the elevation out there, you are having grassland sort of topography. So it's a upland along the equatorial latitudes, but because of the highland effect, the vegetation is getting into grasslands. So this can be abbreviated as the only equatorial grassland which we find anywhere in the world. Okay. So guys, for now, I'll be stopping over here today. In the next class, we'll be discussing division number 3 and division number 4 in great detail, along with the rivers, the resources and the mineral attributes of South America. Please don't forget to follow me on Telegram. My official handle is CAC with PM. And if you go onto the website of StudyIQ, so right now, the most important cell of the year, if you are especially appearing for next year, 2027 and 2028 is going on, it is referred to as the achiever cell. So in this achiever cell, if you go into any language, let's say I'm going into English language, if you open up any courses out there, so the courses in English, if you go in any language out there, if you click buy now, and if you enter my code PM Live and if you apply it, see, you will be getting additional discounts. And this is the most, what I can say, astute platform. Now all of you are aware of it, that if you really want quality affordable education with the most intense discussion out there, you are free to join our platform out there. Free in the sense, of course, you will have to pay the fees, but for the fees which you pay, the knowledge which you get and the application which you get will surely help you in qualifying the civil service examination in the first go itself. Okay, so thank you everybody, and please don't forget to follow me on Telegram. My official handle is CAC with PM. Okay, so until next time, until the next great adventure, thank you, bye bye, adios amigos. Please take good care of yourself and keep on smiling, because that is the ultimate crux of life. Okay, thank you everybody, take care, bye bye.